You cannot ask people to care as leaders, but you can teach them how to care. Hello and thank you for joining me in today's video. I have decided to start this video with a quote by Bob Chapman, who is the chairman and CEO of the global equipment manufacturing company Barrywell Miller. Its worth is $3 billion and they have 12,000 team members. And by the way, I like how they announce that they have team members and not employees, and I share this opinion and this mindset of how to look at people who work in your company. Bob Chapman is also the world-known author of the book on leadership. He was named as number 3 CEO by Inc. magazine, and he is known for transforming his company, who was doing quite poorly many years ago, from traditional management to people-focused leadership. And one more quote by Bob Chapman that I also like a lot is that business can be the most powerful force of good in the world if we simply taught our leaders to care for the people they have the privilege of leading. So the key point is about care, and the key word here is also about learning. That's why I'm sharing these videos in my blog on YouTube, for you to learn new information, for you to have new insights on leadership, and for you to implement everything you learn and the insights you have in your organizations to lead your team members in the best possible way. If you're interested in learning more, and if you're interested in corporate trainings or individual work with me, feel free to contact me and we can have a short video call and discuss all the details. And in today's video, I'm going to further unpack individual performance of team members. There are several videos already on this topic, and if you haven't watched them, I encourage you and I invite you to watch them. You can simply go to my blog and see all the posts on this topic. If you are watching on YouTube, you may go to the description to this video and find the links to all the videos on the topic of individual performance of team members. Just as a short reminder, individual performance of each team member can be analyzed based on 3 components, and these components are ability, motivation, and environment. In my previous videos, I already unpacked ability component, which consists of skills and personality traits. There are videos on that. In last week's video, I started unpacking motivation, and I was speaking about needs based on hierarchy of needs by Maslow and how it can be interpreted from the organizational perspective. Today I'm further speaking about motivation from another perspective, and in the next videos also about motivation, because it is a super complex topic and it is very important to look at motivation of team members from as many perspectives as possible to really get the most of this insights, knowledge, and to motivate people and to have highly motivated people at the job, because their performance is directly connected with the motivation. And the third component, environment, I will speak about environment in my future videos. So today, as I told, I'm going to further speak about motivation, and today's video is dedicated to motivation from the perspective of self-determination theory. Self-determination theory also considers needs of people, psychological needs of people. And what is interesting here is that these needs that I'm going to talk about today, they are born needs. So when we are born as babies, we already have these needs inside us, same as physiological needs. When we have need to eat, we have need to sleep, we have need to drink, we have need to breathe. So these are physiological needs. But we also have psychological needs with which we are born, irrespective of the place where we are born, our culture, mentality, how we were brought up, our environment, our experiences, life experiences, work experiences. We all have these needs inside us. What really differs for each of us is that how they are expressed, in how strongly they are present in us, and how they can be satisfied for us, for each of us, because these needs are very different for each of us. So what are these needs? There are 3 psychological needs based on self-determination theory and that are born in us. And these are need for autonomy, need for competence, and need for relatedness. And I'm going to speak now in details about each and every of these needs from the self-determination theory and looking from the organizational perspective. So according to self-determination theory, one of psychological, one of born needs is the need for autonomy. The need for autonomy means freedom of making decisions. It means we have a need to make decisions on our own. We have a need to make decisions for ourselves, and we don't want others to make decisions instead of us or for us. This is the need. Also, it means that need for autonomy means that we want our behaviors, our activities to be a representation of our interests, preferences, and wishes. So we want to behave, we want to act according to our interests, preferences, and wishes. Need for autonomy also means that we want to set goals by ourselves. We don't want others to set goals for us. Need for autonomy also means that we want to have freedom of choices. We want to be free and to have the power to choose if to start any activity or if not to start some activity, if to continue with this activity or if not to continue, and if to stop or not to stop, also when to start and stop, how to start and stop, and everything that is here. So this is the freedom of choice. We have a need to have freedom of choice. Also, need for autonomy means that we want to decide by ourselves and for ourselves what is important for us and what is not important, on what we want to spend time and on what we are ready to spend time on, and what we are not ready or where we don't want to spend our time on. Speaking about need of autonomy, there are 3 important aspects here that cover 3 aspects, 3 points. This is about free will, this is about perceived control, and this is about perceived freedom of choice. Speaking about perceived control, it is connected to the locus of control. Maybe you had already about locus of control. It's about internal locus of control and external locus of control. Internal, what we perceive that we control. External locus of control, we think that we don't control this. I will maybe have one of videos on this topic about locus of control. So speaking about the need for autonomy, this is a need for internal locus of control. So we need to know that we control the situation. And need for autonomy means that we don't want someone or something else controls us and our choices and our decisions. And speaking about the perceived freedom of choice, it's also about perception. Basically, perceived control and perceived freedom of choice, it's all about perception. How I perceive that I have control and how I perceive that I have freedom of choice. And these perceptions are different for different people. We may think that someone thinks this way, this is our perception. But it doesn't mean that this person thinks the way we think. Because we only perceive, we have only assumption, we have only perception. And this is very important about speaking need of autonomy, is about knowing how your team members perceive how they control the situation. It is very important for you to understand how they perceive if they have freedom of choice or not. Of course, everything starts with ourselves. First, we need to know for ourselves how we perceive our locus of control, how we perceive our freedom of choice, and how we perceive our free will. And it's also very important for you as leader to understand this for every team member in your team, to better approach this. On how to approach need for autonomy in organization, I will speak when I speak in details about two other needs, competence and relatedness. So when I finish explanation of these three aspects, I will give you some insights of how you can look at this in your organization to increase motivation of your people. So the second need, according to the self-determination theory, is competence. Competence means basically desire to have optimal challenges. And these optimal challenges are related to the skills, to the competencies, and to personality traits we have. So optimal challenge needs to be related to the competencies and skills and personality traits we have. Optimal challenge means that it is medium difficult for us. So that when we have some challenge, it's medium difficult, so that we need to take and make some efforts. And when we overcome this challenge, when we achieve what we want to achieve, then we have this feeling of self-satisfaction after taking the efforts. Optimal challenge it is very important that optimal challenge is a medium difficulty task. Because if the challenge is super easy, when in relation to our competencies and skills, this task, this activity may become boring. And then motivation decreases, and then performance decreases. We know the formulas, and you can also see the formula in other videos or on my blog. So if the challenge is easy, then related to our skills and competences, then our motivation is low, then our performance is low. If challenge is very challenging, which means that it is super difficult when related to our skills and competences, so that we don't have skills and competences to reach this goal, then we perceive this goal, this task, as impossible to achieve. Then we become frustrated, anxious about this, because we can't achieve this, we don't have competences, we don't have skills to achieve this. And when we are frustrated and anxious, again, our motivation decreases and our performance decreases. So it is very important to have this optimal challenge, medium difficulty challenge related to our skills and competences and personality traits. What is also important to mention when speaking about this need for competence is the importance of how we look at the feedback. Feedback can be kind of internal, and feedback can be feedback will be also always external, but feedback may be the feedback that we ourselves take, or feedback may be given by other people. What I mean when we take feedback ourselves, when we do some activity, when we achieve some goal and we have result, and this result is actually feedback for us. We don't need anyone to say something about this, but already the result of how we achieved or not achieved the goal is the feedback for us. If we achieve a goal or even exceed in this is the positive feedback for us. And it means that we were doing everything correctly and we achieved the result or even exceeded. So this is positive feedback, and for future we know already that our actions were correct because we received the result. And there is also negative feedback. If, for example, we achieve some goal, we have some task, but we fail. And this is a negative feedback. Every failure is basically just a feedback for us that only tells us that something was wrong in the process, either the approach or the steps were not correct, or we overlooked something, or we didn't consider something. It may be quite a number of reasons, and this negative feedback just shows us that something was not correct, and we need to investigate, to analyze, and to reflect on what was wrong, to analyze this, to reflect, and to make conclusions for the future. And when speaking about this positive and negative feedback, I would like also to have a separate video on this, because it's also a very, very complex topic. It is important to understand that different people perceive feedback in a different way. Either this feedback that I was just speaking about the result, when only we have this feedback, we only see this feedback, or the feedback from others. Some people, of course, everyone likes positive feedbacks, and also here there are some interesting moments that need to be taken into account, and as I told, I will have a video on that. But when speaking about negative feedback, some people perceive it as an instruction to change, to look at, to analyze, to reflect and change. And some people perceive negative feedback as a failure, and it demotivates them. It is connected with the mindset people have. People who perceive even negative feedback as an opportunity to learn, they have a growth mindset. People who perceive feedback as a confirmation that they are bad, okay, I didn't achieve this, I had a failure, I am bad, they have fixed mindset. Also, if you haven't watched videos or haven't read information on growth and fixed mindset, I encourage you to do so. I would also love to have video on that, because it's also very interesting topic, and it's very important to have in organization people with the growth mindset who want to learn. But these are the things that are important to know regarding the competence and challenges and feedback, because every challenge means that there is always a feedback there, negative or positive, depending on the result. And so I've already explained a bit two needs, autonomy and competence, and the third need is the need for relatedness. Third psychological born need is relatedness, which means that we have a need to connect with others. It is especially crucial topic and crucial need for the people who work from home, because this need is at risk for these people. And leaders who have teams with people who work from home have to pay extra attention to make these people feel connected, and to have these people satisfy their need for relatedness. This is very, very important to ensure for people. So what can you do as a leader to increase performance, having all this information in mind? Again, today's video is on motivation, and we look at motivation from the perspective of self-determination theory, which includes three needs. Need for autonomy, need for competence, and need for relatedness. It means that if you want your people to be motivated, you need to satisfy these three needs. Need for autonomy, need for competence, need for relatedness. How you can satisfy this? First of all, communication is needed. Open communication with your team members is needed so that you know what is need for autonomy for them, what is need for competence for them, what is need for relatedness for them, because they may be different for different people based on personality traits, based on previous experiences, based on many factors. It is very important for you to understand how they perceive the locus of control, how they perceive the freedom of choice, how they perceive free will, because it's all about perception, how they perceive competences. And for sure, as a leader, you need to know the skills and personality traits and competences of your people. When after knowing this, then you can see how you can act in order to satisfy these needs. To give more responsibilities to satisfy the need for autonomy, to empower your people to satisfy the need for autonomy, to set goals, not to give goals to your people, but to set goals together, to make them feel and to make them perceive this goal setting process as something where they are involved. And then you increase this need for autonomy and you increase motivation. It is also about providing the feedback. And providing the feedback in a way that people learn from this and satisfy their need for competence. It's about giving your people medium difficulty tasks for them to have these optimal challenges at work to satisfy their need for competence. It's also about being a coach and a mentor, because it doesn't mean that if a person has need for autonomy, then this person needs to be individual, to be kind of isolated in the organization and to do everything on his or her own, to make decisions on their own, to make choices on their own. No, it is not like that. Your role as a leader is a mentor and coach to help these people perceive that they have control, to help these people perceive that they have freedom of choices and free will, and to help these people perceive that they are making decisions. It's not about manipulation. It's about two-sided communication and involvement of these people and empowerment of these people. So it's not about manipulation, no way, but it's about open communication and satisfaction of these needs. Again, if you see that you are lacking some skills, some managerial leadership skills, for example, in terms of giving feedback, constructive feedback that increases motivation, you may contact me regarding the training or individual work, and I will be glad to respond to you. And speaking again about these three needs, need for autonomy, need for competence, need for relatedness, what is extremely important to know is that these needs are connected with intrinsic motivation. There are two kinds of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation is the motivation that goes from inside. Extrinsic motivation is the motivation based on some external factors. What do I mean by that? If I'm intrinsically motivated, I do something because I like it, because this is in the scope of my interest, this is in the scope of what I like to do. I'm curious about this, I want to learn, I want to do, this is my intrinsic motivation. And I might do this without any rewards, like I'm recording these videos. I like this, I like sharing knowledge. And I like speaking on these topics. These topics are very interesting to me. This is what I do from my intrinsic motivation, and I am not paid for because I like it. Extrinsic motivation is is when I do something and I'm extrinsically motivated because someone rewards me, either with money, either with some advantages, some privileges, some bonuses. So this is extrinsic. They at work they need to be balanced. There's always nice when there is a nice balance, and then that's super nice for motivation and super nice for performance. But speaking about these needs, need for autonomy, need for competence, need for relatedness, these needs are connected with intrinsic motivation. And if you satisfy these needs for yourself, for your team members, it means that people will want to perform based on intrinsic motivation. Of course, they will need rewards and salary and bonuses to have their basic needs satisfied. I was speaking about basic needs in my previous video about need for food, need for home, so what they need to have. But speaking about ultimate performance, especially for competent people, for very skilled people, these needs to be satisfied. Need for autonomy, need for competence, need for relatedness, to have this intrinsic motivation at its top for every team member. And this is what you as a leader are responsible for. This is your scope of responsibility, and it's on you how you deal with motivation of your team members. Hope that this video was interesting and useful for you. Hope that you already have some insights, and hope that you will implement them at your job. If you would like to receive videos on time, if you don't want to miss them, you can subscribe to the newsletter. It is on the bottom if you are watching this video on my blog, or if you are watching this video on YouTube, you can go to my website and find subscription form on the bottom of each page. If you have any questions related to this topic, to this video, or to the trainings I conduct or services I offer, feel free to contact me and I will be glad to respond you. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.